Okay, so I've had a few questions from some of my students about articles. So I'm going to do a little series on articles. Today we're going to just be talking about the, so these videos don't get too long. Of course, there are four articles in English: the, a, and then we often count no article as one of the articles. Articles are also one of the most difficult things in English. You know, depending on what your native language is, it may even be the most difficult thing. So that's why we're going to break this up. And I'm not going to cover exceptions in this video because there are really a lot of exceptions. And the exceptions are kind of what makes this topic so difficult, that and you have to sort of change the way you think and think about it how an English speaker thinks. So how do we do that? The is all about is something definite? And by definite, we mean it's absolutely this thing. It can't be some other thing, it's only this thing. We're going to be talking about four different rules that should cover, I don't know, maybe 70, 80% of the usages of the word the, and then there are different exceptions that cover the rest. So hopefully this will give you a pretty good overview. All right, so the four rules I want to talk about here are, so when we've mentioned something already, when something is definite and we definitely understand what you're talking about. We'll give you some examples in a second. I know it sounds a bit confusing. The next one is when there's only one of something in existence. And the last one is when there is a noun defined by another clause. Essentially, the clause is defining the noun. Okay, and one thing I like to tell my students is that if you think the word which and try to answer this question, you'll often end up with the right answer as to whether you should use the or not. So usually if you can answer the question which, then you can use the as your article. We'll see some examples here, of course. And then just don't forget that the can refer to both singular and plural nouns. So the moon, singular, yeah. The people, plural. The question is not whether it's singular or plural. The question is it definite or indefinite? So let's get right into these rules. The first rule is when we've mentioned something already. And these rules are in no particular order. You could put them in any order. It doesn't matter. So let's just check out an example. We can say, did you go see a movie last night? So here we're using a, meaning that the movie is indefinite. We don't know which movie you're talking about. Then you can answer, yes, I did. It was all right. It refers to the movie. The other person says, you didn't like it? Well, the movie was a bit long. So here, of course, we see the. And why is that? That's because we know which movie you're talking about, the movie that you went to last night. So contextually, here we understand that the movie is definite. However, here we don't understand that the movie is definite yet. So we've mentioned the movie once. Second time we mention it, we can use the article. I hope that makes sense. Let's move on to the next example. So when something is definite, we definitely understand what you're talking about. I know this sounds a bit confusing, but let's look at an example here. So this is usually used for something that is immediately visible or cannot be mistaken for something else. So for example, imagine you are sitting with your friend and you see a rainbow. You point to the rainbow. Again, we have the here because we've already referred to rainbow. So here's an example of this, yeah. Rainbow, and we say, the rainbow is so bright today, but I haven't referred to this rainbow already. However, there's only one rainbow in the sky at a time, usually. So it's important to note that there is only one rainbow, so you couldn't be referring to a different rainbow Therefore, we use the. There's only one possible choice, and it's visible. Therefore, we'll use the. So think like anytime you're pointing to something. This one a bit easier, I think. Of course, these two have a lot to do with context and take some time to sort of feel. I hope you get the basic idea. Number three is more complicated. So when there's only, or number three is easier, sorry. When there's only one of something in existence. For example, the sun, the moon. There's only one sun, in our galaxy. There's only one moon for the Earth. However, it can also be used when it's clear which one you're talking about. For example, I need to go to the store. Yeah? Do you need anything? And it's likely that there is more than one store near your house. Yeah, probably. But from context, we understand that you mean the store that you usually go to. It wouldn't make sense to say, I'm going to a store. Do you need anything? Because if you said a store, then asked if you need anything, they wouldn't know what kind of thing they could ask for. So the store sounds like the grocery store if you speak American English, a food market. But if I say a store, it could be clothing, electronics, food, whatever. And so this question would be a little bit strange. So I hope that makes sense. It doesn't have to be a store. You could also say, I'm going to the bank. Of course, there are lots of banks, but you mean the bank that I usually go to, like this. Okay? And the last example is for nouns that are defined by another clause. So again, when we talk about articles, what we're always doing is making sure that the noun is defined or definite, however you want to think about it. So a clause, which is just a part of a sentence, you don't have to worry about the different kind of clauses right now, can define a noun. So we can say the cat that lives next door, yeah, using that to trigger a clause, is hunting mice. And we could always say the cat is hunting mice, but it would sound a little bit strange because we don't know which cat you're talking about. It could be any cat. But once we add that lives next door, you've defined the cat. Which cat? The cat that lives next door. So that lives next door here lets us know which cat you're talking about. And that way it is definite, meaning that we cannot mistake it for a different cat. And then I kind of already mentioned this, but however, if I simply say the cat is hunting mice, it may be unclear which cat I'm talking about. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments section, and I'll do my best to get back to you when I can, and we'll cover the other articles in a later video.